Aurelion Sol as a champion is already pretty off-meta, but our player today takes that a step further. This is Saibot, a master Aurelion Sol top lane player. To make this weird pick work, he's created a laning strategy that lets him always be ahead of enemies, a new Insec dragon combo for 1v1 kills, and a new Tanky Build that makes him look a lot more like an AP version of a bruiser. Of course, also having the biggest stun in the game that he uses in some special ways, some of which can even 1 vs 5 ace the enemy team. And most importantly, look how cool he looks when he's flying. I interviewed him to find out how he climbed from being hard stuck in platinum all the way to master in just 2 months with this rare pick. But quickly, this video is sponsored by Porofessor. Porofessor is an overlay app for League that gives you so much information without even needing to tab out the game. In my opinion, it is the best League app, as well as the only one I use. I'm incredibly happy to have them as a sponsor for this channel. During Champ Select, Porofessor automatically finds you the best runes, and you can even import pro players' runes right to your client. Maybe the most important feature it has, you get to see pro builds as well. You can see the statistically best build from Master Plus, as well as what individual pro players have bought in case you want a professional's opinion. Once the game starts, Porofessor scouts your opponents to show you important stats like how good they are at their champion, whether they're auto-filled, or even if someone likes to roam a lot so you know to watch out for them. In-game you have the Porofessor overlay which updates live as you play, letting you compare yourself with other players in your rank, which helps you figure out which areas you need to improve to climb. Porofessor is completely free, download it from the link in the description. Back to Aurelion Sol. Our player today is named Saibot, which is actually just his real name, Tobias, backwards. Up until Season 9, Tobias was just the same as anyone else who had played League, which means just like the rest of us, he'd never played a champion called Aurelion Sol, but this year he was inspired to give it a try. So he got into ranked, excited to learn this new champion, and very quickly his account got permabanned. It wasn't all Aurelion Sol's fault. He mentioned his anxiety issues and constant blaming of his teammates whenever he lost, and these are what had kept him stuck in platinum for the past few years. Season 10 he was back on a new account, but soon after that he was hit by another permaban for toxicity. It was not until Season 12 that he began to actually climb. He dropped every champion except for Aurelion Sol, realizing that if he ever wanted to get good at this weird pick, he couldn't be playing another style of champion every other game. Maining a champion was important, but he also made it clear to me that getting help with his anxiety and improving his real life was the main reason he was able to actually focus on playing well in League. So with this, starting in Platinum, he began to play Aurelion Sol mid, and he did okay, but he didn't feel like his mechanics were really being tested. Mid lane was full of ranged champions as well as assassins, so he was too busy trying to survive lane to ever take a 1 vs 1. So he thought of top lane, a true 1 vs 1 lane, where he would be forced to fight enemies throughout the laning phase, and if he managed to outplay them, he would leave lane with kills every time. Also realizing the strength of Aurelion Sol's E to cross the map super quickly to join fights. So now he was a top laner who didn't even need to take teleport, inventing a new build specifically to fit top lane, turning him into a high health, slippery fighter that was really hard to kill. After just 2 months of playing this pick, he was shooting up in rank ridiculously fast, becoming a master player for the first time. His game plan starts from the very first second he gets into game, on the spawn platform, pinging his teammates to get ready. Moving all the way into the corner, at 16 seconds, he starts his Q straight down the middle of the map. Thanks to the home guard speed effect you get at the start of the game, Sol can chase his Q all the way across the map without even needing his E. This creates a giant star that will stun anyone who is walking blindly into mid lane. Enemies don't even get vision of the star until it's too late and it's on top of them, and the huge area that it covers is basically impossible to juke, setting up an easy first blood. And then in lane, Aurelion Sol is a champion that can kill almost immediately. He has his Q at level 1 from the mid strategy, so he plays the level 1 very slowly, as he really needs his W, which he gets at level 2 to start looking for a fight. Usually this champion's very hard to kill with, because it requires you to exactly follow enemies' movements to make sure you keep doing damage. But Tobias has found a way to make this much easier. Using Ignite to proc his Nimbus cloak means that enemies cannot gap close or run away from him. He can easily stay right on top of them with his stars, collecting a 1 vs 1 kill. If enemies play safe, then Tobias doesn't mind because his champion has great wave clear, so he pushes the wave to get prio, making sure it gets all the way to tower at level 3 and taking a quick base. Having this crazy wave clear and pushing the wave quickly is the main way he's able to stop being vulnerable to ganks. In base he buys boots and a control ward, having his E which acts as a roaming tool, so he doesn't go straight back to top lane, instead moving towards mid. He wants to go into top river and place a control ward down in this bush for some safe vision. He can now help his jungler with the crab or join a level 3 fight, much earlier than any other top laner, and he can always get right back to top lane in time to catch the wave. A Against more aggressive champions that have a gap closer, Tobias instead takes Exhaust. Although taking Exhaust on a top laner is incredibly cringe, it does help him easily kite out enemies and avoid death on a champion that is terrible against anyone who can jump on you. In lane, your main issue is mana, since you're poking and pushing the wave so much. But this actually isn't a problem, because Tobias can always just shove the wave and base, using E to come right back to lane before the enemy gets a chance to do anything. Most games Tobias is actually playing with First Strike, but he actually mostly takes it because of the inspiration tree. First Strike is good because he can poke with W or auto attacks to get the free gold, but also by taking this tree you can unlock biscuits, and importantly Time Warp Tonic. Since you're a squishy mage top laner, this rune actually solves your problem of being squishy, letting Tobias instantly gain health in a trade to make sure he is able to survive any all-in. Tobias is also one of the only players I see in high elo who takes Stopwatch, at least on a role that isn't support. He's already taking inspiration, so this rune is his best option for safety. But level 6 is where the strategy gets interesting. If you're a new Aurelion Sol player, you would use your ultimate just for the damage. If you get some experience on this champion, then you'd also use ult to knock people away from you, which means that your stun can travel further and thus stun for longer, while also knocking enemies into the range of your stars. But if you're Tobias, with a huge amount of experience on this champion, you also use ultimate to insect players into your tower to get 1 versus 1 kills. Suddenly this squishy mage is flashing behind enemies and ulting them, with this ability also slowing enemies under the tower so they take tower shots, and then he stuns them to lock them down for even longer, meaning they're dead before they can even get back to the minions. This champion's also really good at setting up ganks, being able to throw out ult at long range for a big slow, easily setting up his stun for a kill. His goal now is to get his first item, which isn't a mythic. His strategy is first item Royalize. This item was buffed at the start of the season to be much cheaper, only costing 2,600 gold, one of the cheapest AP items in the whole game, so he rushes it, getting his first item way earlier than the enemy top laner. Royalize has incredible synergy with Aurelion, because every star he hits reapplies the slow, and in top lane, anytime he lands a slow, he can look to chase the enemy down for a kill. This slow is so annoying, because if you don't have tier 2 boots, then you basically can't run away from him, and since he's so good at positioning, you also can't reach him to fight him. They're just slowed and stuck inside his damage. Once he gets Royalized, he now wants to roam as much as he can. This isn't exactly like a normal roaming top laner, because he's the one who actually has the damage. He's the one who actually wants to collect the kills. I mentioned the great wave clear this pick has, so it's easy for him to push wave and leave the lane with his E to cross the map. Clearing the wave is weird on this champion, you just need to make sure they line up, so you can get below them, activate W and hit all of the minions at once. This opens him up to use E to move to mid lane, to set up kills, or even to join fights. Or instead he can base, making it super simple and fast to get to literally any part of the map with this ability, and this strategy is so good at roaming he even maxes his E second for the extra range. These quick roams are the main reason Aurelion Sol is a useful champion top lane. He's able to use it to create uneven fights in other lanes. Purchasing Everfrost next, he can do the classic long range stun out of base, using Q into E and staying near it for maximum range on the stun, which extends the duration of it to 2.2 seconds, so he can then combo his Everfrost for a total of 3.7 seconds of CC, easily enough time to set up a kill on anyone. There's a reason this play is so popular and we all know about it already, and that's because when you do it correctly at the right time, it's a free ace with just your damage, not even really needing teammates. And Everfrost just makes it better. A funny trick you can also do with Everfrost is use it while you're in your E, so if you're moving past someone and you want to stun them to set up a kill, or stop them from cancelling your flight, you can Everfrost sideways and just keep moving forwards to get to the play. Against tanks, he can instead go for Demonic Embrace, which lets him stack another Giant's Belt on top of his Royalize, and then even building Crown for even more damage blocking, making him much tankier than a normal mage. And I had to show you this, you love to see a low HP Rengar being run down by a mage, finally feeling what he does to AD carries and mid laners in every other game. Aurelion Sol is tanky enough to not even worry about the other champions while it's happening, but he doesn't give up on top lane completely, as he can always play in a side lane. Since you're roaming a lot, returning to top lane can be surprising for enemies, thanks to the classic long range EQ stun combo. If the enemy top is too overextended, it's going to be a free stun and then a chase down for a kill. He can then stay in a side lane pushing waves, using E to join any fight as soon as it starts. And at this point, the range is so big you can get all the way to Dragon to join a team fight. In team fights, Aurelion Sol is really flexible. He can be a classic DPS mage, getting a big Q stun to engage the fight, with stars for DPS, and ultimate to finish off escaping enemies. But he's also happy to act as bait, buying Zhonya's and using the fact he's immobile to get enemies to dive him. He can then use stun, go invulnerable, and let his teammates clean up. Another thing you can do is stand on top of your carries, saving your ultimate for peel, and push the enemies away. Of course he has Rylai's, so he's really annoying, trying to apply it on as many enemies as he can to limit their options. Getting picks with this build is also very simple. You can literally just ult an enemy who's a full screen away, with the ult slowing for 50%, and then the Rylai stacking on top of that, letting you catch up, get a stun, and set up a kill. One thing I noticed when I was watching a ton of his games is that he always plays with this skin, which is Storm Dragon. I believe it's actually pay to win, because the Q stun is really hard to avoid, as you can't actually see the edge of the circle. I've seen him throw out so many stuns thinking, there's no chance this one lands, and the enemy tries to juke it, but they don't do it quite enough, and they still somehow get clipped by it, even in Master. But let's get back to reality for a second. You're playing Aurelion Sol Top. There are some disadvantages, like even though you are a ranged top laner, you actually hate playing against ranged top laners just as much as any bruiser player. These picks are a hard counter, as champions like Akshan can dash on you faster than you can kite them. Melee picks like Irelia are also impossible to kite, so this is who he bans, which seems like a very common theme for all of my videos. I think this pick, especially in top lane, is very hard, but it is a great champion that directly rewards the effort you put in. You can win top lane, you can affect the map, and this pick shows that you don't even need to pick something like Smite Janna to have an effect on the game in top. You remain useful throughout the game in 1v1s as a carry, but you have this map crossing ability that lets you join any fight, and you're pretty good in fights because you have CC, slows, and good damage. So I would give this a pretty high rating. The matchups are the main issue, and these can be saved with good positioning, which is a valuable skill for every League player to learn. Tobias's build starts with the Corrupting Potion for the Time Warp Tonic combo. First item Rylai's almost every game, but against a tank you can actually go Demonic Embrace first to absolutely shred through them, so it's a great adaptation, getting Rylai second instead. Sorcerer Shoes for the damage, as it works with every star you hit, so it gives you a ton of value. Everfrost for picks against mobile champions, or Crown if you want more safety, always buying Zhonya's so he can bait, then Void Staff against magic resist, or Cosmic Drive against squishy champions. This is the first strike rune page he used to hit Master with, and it still works, but he also recommends this Conqueror page, as it gives you more consistent damage in longer fights. Tobias actively makes YouTube videos about his Aurelion Sol, link is in the description if you want to see more of him, and thanks again to Porofessor for sponsoring this video. It's the perfect companion for learning a new champion, link to that is below as well. Thanks so much for watching.